What's up guys and welcome back. I'm insanely excited to show you this video today, and it's one that I've been anticipating making for so long. Claude 4 is finally here, and I am a complete fiend for new models.
Stop it. Get some help.
And in this video I have Claude 4 write 10,000 lines of code based on one prompt and a markdown file to create this entire web page that you see in front of you, and it's also functional. You can go to perfect prompt, and this website was designed to be able to intake a rough draft of a prompt and spit out a perfectly curated, crafted prompt LLM ready. One mistake that I constantly make is whenever I'm tired or whenever I was first starting out, my prompting skills were not the best. Now, I would often send broken messages into Cursor, Windsurf, Replit, Lovable, and I would get those broken results back. However, that's not the case anymore. In less time than it took me to actually edit this video, Claude 4 wrote 10,000 lines of code to make this entire web page and connect it to backend solutions to actually make it useful. So anything that I want to prompt Cursor to do, I can write a rough draft in here. It'll give me a perfectly engineered prompt to actually copy and paste into Cursor. Let's say I want to create a React project. And instead of sending, I want to create a React project into Cursor, I can enhance this prompt. So I can give it actually a markdown file, and this markdown file is nothing special at all. I just wanted to show that you can also add other context with your prompt to make it even better. You could even send a prompt just by itself without any extra context. And then click perfect it, and it'll output me an entire prompt that I can actually copy and paste with step-by-step guide of what Cursor agent actually needs to do. So I can copy this and actually paste it directly into Cursor. So to be able to get that perfectly engineered prompt, I hooked up the website to an N8N Automation, which will grab that prompt and any of the files that you uploaded via Webhook, convert the files via base64 into readable data. It's going to engineer that prompt for you, get that data ready to send back to you, and then send it back via Webhook. And I've used other models such as Gemini 2.5 to try and do this before, and honestly, it took so many tries and it wasn't the best, but Claude 4 did this very easily. So if you go to the link that's going to be in the description, you can use it completely for free and see this entire web app that I created with Claude 4 in this video. So if you watch one of my last videos where I talked about spending over 500 hours in Cursor and what I've learned, I talked about how Claude 3.7 was insanely good at UI design. So I was so excited for Claude 4 to come out. So my expectations were already so high going into this, and Claude 4 continued to deliver. It created a ton of pages, all with nice animations, a pricing page, a marketplace, and a dashboard. So Claude 4 was just released by Anthropic just a few hours ago, and you can see it on the benchmarks here. It's touted by them saying it's the greatest coding model in the world to date. And while you can go through all these benchmarks yourself, I'm going to actually put it to the test and build a real-world web application in this video. So one of the most excited I've ever been in the world of AI whenever I filmed this video, which I'll link here, whenever Claude 3.7 came out. And it honestly blew me away. So I went through the exact same guidelines that I went through in that video, so I can give an honest review of how Claude 4 stacks up against Claude 3.7. I take it through the exact same prompts, and the results are actually drastically different. So you'll need to stick around and see how it's actually different and what I actually think about this model. And if you want to see this entire website and use the perfect prompt, go to the link in the description. It's completely for free. And if you want the N8N template that's also connected to this, join the school community, which will be linked below, where I share all of my templates and workflows for you to be able to download. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So Anthropic, with their Code with Anthropic conference, their first ever, released Claude Opus 4 and Claude Sonnet 4. And you can see with this tweet here that they released some of their benchmarks. I'm not going to go into the benchmarks too much, as I'm sure we're all tired of seeing how the benchmarks are the main proxy for how all of these models kind of stack up against each other. So I'll link this tweet along with this blog in the description below, but I'm going to go through it fairly quickly, and I'm not going to spend too much time in this blog. I'm going to point out some of the main points that I gathered from reading this blog and then also listening to the conference where they unveiled it. The first thing that I want to point out is something that they said in the conference that I think is the most important thing that they needed to update. While Claude 3.7 is great with UI design and great at coding, I typically did not use it that much for one main reason. And whenever I did use it, I used it with very strict guidelines. It was almost overeager, and it would touch way too many things that I didn't ask it to touch. So it seems like I wasn't the only one saying this. They actually mentioned this in the conference whenever they unveiled it, as one of the first things they said was that they reduced the overeagerness of Opus 4 and Sonnet 4. So I'm looking for that to be one of the main things that I see whenever using this. And if they successfully did this to where it doesn't touch a bunch of things that you didn't ask it to and it's not overeager, I'm going to be using this a ton whenever I'm within Cursor or just within Claude itself. So around 2 months ago, I released this video on the day that Claude 3.7 came out, and I just rewatched it, and it's insane to me how numb we've become with how good these models have gotten. After rewatching it, I just remember the feeling of how excited I was seeing Claude 3.7 work and how good of a reasoning model it was at that certain time. I'm expecting the exact same results whenever using Claude 4 Opus and Sonnet, and I'm going to use the exact same prompts that I used within this video to ultimately compare how good Claude 4 is compared to 3.7. This would be a very good litmus test to how good it actually is and how it actually compares to Claude 3.7. So in the desktop version of Claude, I just had to kind of refresh my desktop, and Claude 4 Opus and Sonnet are both in there. And they have the same functionality to where they have the extended thinking or the quick thinking mode, and you just toggle it like this. So to start off, I'm going to give it the exact same prompt that I gave it and see the results and kind of compare how it actually works. So I'm going to say I need a business idea that meets this criteria. So here's kind of the prompt. It's just asking for a business idea that solves a real world problem, high profit margins, leverages emerging technologies and trends, and that could realistically be started within the next 3 months. So I'm going to go ahead and send this, and I'm going to see for the very first time how Claude 4 Opus actually works. And I'm really going to be interested in how long it takes, as in the last 3.7 video, it took around 26 seconds, and it took around 9 seconds this time around for it to give a, let's see if it's actually a quality answer. So it's AI prompt marketplace and optimization platform. So it's a SaaS subscription model with transaction fees as well, and it gives us our 30-day roadmap. So that's interesting. I think it could be better, but for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to go with it. So I'm going to just ask it to generate a brand and identity, such as, just for the sake of you didn't have to watch me slowly type, I just asked it to generate a brand, identity, such as name, logo, color scheme, concept, etc. So it gave a pretty cool name, Prompt Lab, I like that, color scheme, and it gave some pretty cool ways of automating networking and client acquisition. It's actually giving a lot more than what I asked for: cold email, AI outreach, SEO, content factory, a bunch of stuff that's actually useful if you're actually wanting to do this. Okay, perfect. Let's keep going with this, and I'm just going to ask it to generate a markdown file that I can insert directly into Cursor. Now, this won't be me using Claude within a current project. This is going to be a new project. I know there's some back and forth as people want to see actual projects being worked on. I am going to do that, but I want to actually give some time for me to actually use it within some of my projects that I'm working on to give some real feedback. I don't want to just bust in and create a video that I'm not that well informed on the model and how it actually works and tips and tricks. So I'm going to be testing Claude 4 out a lot within Cursor and a lot within some of my other projects before I actually make that video. So if you want to see it, leave a comment below and I will do that. So let's just ask it to create a comprehensive markdown file. So I just wrote create a comprehensive markdown file that I can copy and paste directly into Cursor. And this file should contain necessary prompts that should say steps to automatically generate an Next.js Tailwind website, and just some steps that I want it to have involved, which would be a website structure, components and UI elements, data visualization components, page-specific content, and everything else necessary to create this project. So let's actually see how this goes. This is something that whenever I created the initial 3.7 video that I was completely blown away by. So this is something that I don't typically like with Claude. Currently breaks it up into things like this, so it's not that easy to copy and paste. Whereas it used to have a dedicated window. I don't know, just personal preference and something I don't like. So I'm going to go through and actually create a markdown file within a Cursor project to copy all this over. So I currently have a bare bones project with nothing in it, as you can see, and I'm just going to be creating a markdown file within it to create this entire project. So I'm just going to create a new file just called cursor prompt.md. And I'm just going to copy over everything that it gave us in markdown form. Okay, I just copy and pasted all that over, and in true vibe coder fashion, I'm just going to go straight back into Claude Desktop and say in a short prompt for Opus 4 in cursor agent mode to follow the .cursor prompt.md file I created with these. Send that. Okay, copy that. Let's go back to Cursor. And if you haven't already, go to your cursor settings and go to models, and you should see Claude for Opus, Claude for Opus Thinking, Sonnet, and Sonnet Thinking. So you have to have all those checked. And I'm just going to go to for Opus. I'm going to paste that prompt in there. Make sure it has access to this file. And I'm interested in seeing how long it takes, as the last time it took around 30 minutes for it to create this entire project. So I will see you once it's done. Okay, and it just finished. It's been about 20 to 30-ish minutes, and we're getting prompted to run the dev. Let's open the terminal, run this, and see if it actually compiles first try, or if there's errors. Look at it. And boom, it actually ran no errors, and it compiled. There is some obvious spacing issues with the nav bar, but there is some visual animations here, which aren't the smoothest. That can be fixed. We have a rotating title here. Okay, let's see if these buttons do anything. Let's see if this nav bar actually works. Okay, so it wrote all the code for the nav bar pages. We have a pricing page, marketplace. This is actually a very cool page that has working animations on it. So, in full disclosure, Claude 4 Opus apparently didn't know that AI Money was trying to use it, and there was a rate limit within Cursor, and I was unable to use it. So this is all using Claude 3 for Sonnet Thinking. It wrote around 9,000 lines of code, which is absolutely insane to be able to write 9,000 lines of code and it actually all fit together and work and compile first try. That is nuts. So there's some clear spacing issues with the nav bar. We have some cool visual animations. The scroll bar is pretty sick. These pages actually run up numbers. These visual animations to where it actually loads is actually pretty intricate and cool. Seamless integrations. The spacing, like I said, is a little bit off. Obviously, you can see it's tilted to the left, but for the first try on one single prompt is absolutely nuts. We have a pricing page. And like I said in my 500-hour cursor video, Claude is notorious, from my experience, to be very good at UI design and animations. So let's go to the marketplace page. So there's actually, are these all written? And let's go to the dashboard. These animations on the dashboard are actually pretty cool. So in my honest judgment of how this worked compared to Claude 3.7, I would say this is a ton better. With 3.7, it didn't compile on the first try. There was a bunch of missing stuff, and it didn't really work. As here, the attention to detail on being able to write 9,000 lines of code with one single prompt and actually compile and seemingly work for the most part is completely mind-blowing. Okay, so this is pretty insane, the amount of detail it was able to provide. Just as you can see, it's still left aligned. I'm not really a fan of that, and the navigation bar is pretty trash. But as expected, Claude with UI is chef's kiss, other than just some of the small, minute details. Let's see if we can actually make this useful here. On the app folder, I'm just going to create a new folder called prompt, and I'm going to create a new file within that. For simplicity, I'm just going to call it page.tsx, and I'm going to create a way for you to enter a message and it turn it into a perfectly cursor ready prompt. Okay, so I just completely added a new prompt page, and this should be showing up in our project. So you can get to it here, perfect my prompt. Perfect, we have a new page here. I still don't like the left align, but I can work on that. But I'm able to type here. There's a button, we can add documents. Perfect. Okay, so I'm actually going to hook this up to just a fast N8N workflow, and I think to really squeeze all the juice out of it, you could probably do a different AI agent with maybe like a pedantic framework or something like that. Maybe if you want to see that, leave a comment, and I can totally do that and make a part 2 to this, as I think this would be so cool to build. But for now, let's go with adding this to an N8N workflow just to be able to get some back and forth here. So I'm going to go back to cursor. Actually, first I'm going to open up a new N8N workflow. I'll name this prompt gen. I have a webhook trigger here, and I'm just going to save it as prompt gen, save the test URL, and I'm going to go back to cursor and just explain that I have from the prompt page. Okay, so with the website running, I'm going to test this. I'm going to refresh this. Okay. Oh, I'll just do that to respond immediately. Save. Delete that. Test. Okay. And we captured the response from the website. So here's our prompt body, and we can see that there's no files here. Let's see if the files actually work. Let's just do this and then send. Okay, and we got all the data from the file. Okay, so prompt and then files stored like this. Perfect. So to extract that data, I'm actually going to use a code node and copy and paste. I literally just asked Claude Opus directly to make this fit along with the tutorial. It gave me this, and I'm just going to paste this in there. And we're doing this because the content is currently in basic C4 string, and we need to make it actually readable. Let's test this, see if it works. Okay, perfect. Content is here's a quick 3-step guide that actually worked, and perfect. Let's keep on cooking. I'm going to add an AI node here and copy and paste a prompt, which is simply just saying you're an expert at crafting prompts for AI code editors like Cursor, Windsurf, Lovable. Here's the user's rough prompt. Here's any files, and only output and optimized prompt ready to copy and paste. We'll need to use an LLM here. Let's do Open Router, and let's do Claude Opus 4, and let's test this step here. Now I'm going to add a set node after this to format our data a little bit better for our webhook response node. We go to JSON formality, and I'm just going to stringify this text here. I'm going to test this step, and boom. We have a response ready, and then I'm going to do webhook respond to webhook. I'm going to add response headers. Just put content type application JSON. Add another header for cores. Access control. Allow origin. And add a response code 200. And that should be good to go. I'm going to now take all this data and go back to Cursor. So I'm going to have this, copy this, go back to Cursor, and just explain page should now wait for a response from the webhook. Will respond in this format with success 200 response headers, content type application JSON. And then while that is updating, we'll need to update our N8N workflow to, instead of respond immediately, using respond to webhook node. Save this. Okay, that is now done. Let's go back to our project. Please create a React project. And then we'll add that MD file again, and we will test the workflow and see if it works. Failed to send prompt. Okay, there was a rate limit. Oh, so there was actually an error because I think Claude Opus 4 rate limit is currently being cooked. So let's just change it to OpenAI for 1. Save this, delete. And see, that's why I always use OpenRouter. It's pretty easy to change models. I would have to change the complete node. We'll test this again, and we can just do perfect it. And received an unexpected response format. Okay, so this should be, okay, so our workflow worked to completion. We can add, copy that, and go back to Cursor and just say, I received an error in testing workflow was successfully triggered and ran to completion. Problem arose on the response format. seems the project expected a different format than what was received. Here's how they respond with webhook node formatted. It's out. And I just pasted that in there. And I will add this page for context again to make sure. Let's stop this. Let's just npm run dev here. Refresh this. Test the workflow again. Project. Add our file. And perfect it. And here's our perfected prompt. And we can copy this. Let's see if this actually works. Let's see if we paste it in here. Perfect. So we got that working. That is insane. All right. So that's it for today's video. I honestly am super impressed with Claude 4 Sonnet thinking. I didn't get to use Opus much within Cursor as there's rate limits, and obviously you saw in N8N there's rate limits. I'm going to be using it in my personal projects a whole lot and give a better review here in a few days or weeks. If there's anything you want to see, drop it down in the comments. You can test this website out. I'm going to leave it in the description below as well. You can throw in any prompts that you want. And if you want the N8N workflow, join the school community, which will be linked below. And if you like this content, like, subscribe. And until then, see you guys.